Welcome to Blood Sugar Squad, your go-to channel for simple, actionable tips to manage diabetes and live your best life. You have probably heard the term glycemic index thrown around. Maybe your doctor mentioned it. Maybe you saw it on social media. Maybe you have no idea what it actually means. The glycemic index sounds simple enough. It promises to tell you which foods raise your blood sugar quickly and which ones don't. But once you start digging into it, things become much less clear. Is it really a useful tool for managing diabetes? Should you be using it every day? And how much attention should you actually pay to those glycemic index charts? In this video, we're going to explain what the glycemic index really measures, where it can be helpful, where it falls short, and the simple strategies that matter even more for keeping your blood sugar under control. Segment 1. What is the glycemic index? Let us start with a clear definition. The glycemic index, or GI, is a ranking system that measures how quickly carbohydrate-containing foods raise your blood sugar compared to pure glucose. Foods are ranked on a scale from 0 to 100. Low GI foods, those with a score of 55 or less, generally produce a slower, more gradual rise in blood sugar. High GI foods, those with a score of 70 or more, tend to raise blood sugar more quickly. Here are some examples. Low GI foods include many beans, lentils, steel-cut oats, most non-starchy vegetables, and many fruits. Higher GI foods include white bread, many breakfast cereals, instant rice, mashed potatoes, and sugary drinks. Here is the first thing many people misunderstand. The glycemic index measures how quickly carbohydrates enter your bloodstream. It does not measure how much carbohydrate you actually eat. Imagine two cars. One sports car can drive 150 miles per hour. Another tops out at 70. The glycemic index tells you which car is faster, but it tells you nothing about how far each one is going to travel. That depends on how much fuel is in the tank. Food works the same way. That is where glycemic load comes in. Glycemic load combines the glycemic index with the amount of carbohydrate in a normal serving. For example, watermelon has a relatively high glycemic index. But because a serving contains relatively little carbohydrate, its glycemic load is actually low. In many real-world situations, glycemic load provides a more practical picture than glycemic index alone. But even glycemic load has limitations. If you are wondering where to find a reliable glycemic index chart, you do not need a specialist. A great resource is the website glycemicindex.net, which has a comprehensive chart that covers over 500 foods, organized by low, medium, and high GI values. I'll have that link in the description. You can also find many free and easy-to-use glycemic index apps for your phone. These can be a convenient reference when you are shopping or planning a meal. Just keep in mind that the values can vary depending on ripeness, processing, and cooking method, which we will talk about in the next segment. Segment 2. The problems with the glycemic index. The glycemic index is not a bad concept. In fact, it can be a useful educational tool. The problem is that real life is much more complicated than laboratory testing. First, the American Diabetes Association does not recommend using the glycemic index as the primary way to plan meals for people with diabetes. That sometimes surprises people. The reason is not because the glycemic index is wrong. It is because it is only one small piece of a much larger picture. Second, glycemic index testing measures foods eaten by themselves after an overnight fast. That is not how most of us eat. You probably are not sitting down to eat plain white bread by itself. You are eating a sandwich, or toast with peanut butter, or bread alongside eggs. Adding protein, healthy fat, and fiber slows digestion and often changes the blood sugar response dramatically. Third, the same food can have very different glycemic index values depending on how it is prepared. A green banana behaves differently than a ripe banana. Al dente pasta behaves differently than overcooked pasta. Rice that has been cooled overnight develops more resistant starch than freshly cooked rice. Even something as simple as cooking time can change how your body responds. Then there are some truly surprising examples. A candy bar actually has a lower glycemic index than some whole wheat breads. Does that make the candy bar healthier? Of course not. The glycemic index measures speed. It says nothing about vitamins, minerals, protein, calories, fiber, or overall nutrition. Perhaps the biggest limitation is that your body is unique. Two people can eat the exact same meal and see completely different blood sugar responses. Genetics, sleep, stress, medications, exercise, hormones, gut bacteria, and even the time of day all influence glucose levels. Finally, glycemic index values themselves are not perfectly consistent. Different laboratories have sometimes measured the same food and produced noticeably different GI values. That does not mean the glycemic index is worthless. It simply means we should avoid treating it like an exact science. Now, if you've watched other Blood Sugar Squad videos, you may be wondering, wait, you've talked about glycemic index plenty of times. You're right. And we will continue to, because the glycemic index does have value. It is a helpful shortcut. If you are comparing two similar carbohydrate foods, the glycemic index can give you a reasonable idea of which one is likely to produce a slower blood sugar rise. The key word is likely. Segment 3, Beyond the Glycemic Index. So if the glycemic index is only one tool, what deserves most of your attention? First, focus on total carbohydrates. For most people with diabetes, the amount of carbohydrate you eat has a greater effect on blood sugar than the glycemic index alone. That is why reading nutrition labels is so important. Second, prioritize fiber. Fiber slows digestion, reduces blood sugar spikes, and often improves fullness after meals. Higher fiber carbohydrate foods generally produce more predictable glucose responses. Third, use the diabetes plate method. Fill half your plate with non-starchy vegetables, 1/4 with lean protein, 1/4 with quality carbohydrates. It is simple, practical, and supported by years of diabetes education. Fourth, combine carbohydrates with protein and healthy fats. Fruit with nuts, toast with peanut butter, rice alongside chicken and vegetables. Balanced meals almost always outperform carbohydrates eaten alone. Finally, and this is the biggest one, learn from your own body. Whether you use a fingerstick meter or a continuous glucose monitor, your own glucose readings are more valuable than any glycemic index chart. The glycemic index predicts. Your glucose meter measures, and measurements almost always beat predictions. When it comes to managing your blood sugar, the glycemic index can be a helpful starting point. But the real power comes from understanding how your body responds to the foods you actually eat. That is where the Mindful Eating for Diabetes guide comes in. It is a free, practical toolkit to help you build a healthier relationship with food. Just use the QR code on screen or the link in the description below. Segment 4, Final Thoughts. The glycemic index is a helpful guide, but it is only one piece of the puzzle. It can help you compare similar carbohydrate foods and make more informed choices, especially when you're learning how different foods affect blood sugar. But the best diabetes management comes from looking at the bigger picture. Focus on building balanced meals, choosing foods rich in fiber, paying attention to total carbohydrates, and pairing carbs with protein and healthy fats. Then use your glucose meter or continuous glucose monitor to see how your body responds. The glycemic index offers a useful starting point, but your own glucose readings provide the personalized information that matters most. What are your thoughts about the glycemic index? Have you ever used it when planning your meals? Comment below, and please share this video with someone who is trying to make sense of diabetes nutrition. Until next time, stay strong, stay sweet, but not too sweet, and keep thriving with the Blood Sugar Squad.